Good evening. 10 years ago, my father passed away. My father Gershon, as Heather just so eloquently and warmly mentioned. And I was a full-time position working a completely different field that had nothing to do with journalism, to the chagrin of my father, actually. But after my father died, here we had the Algemeiner. And I remember literally as we drove back from the funeral, together with my siblings, and I immediately said, as the oldest child, that we will continue this media voice. It was a completely insane move, based on no logic, just coming strictly from my gut. And I felt that if we want to kill it, let's kill it, but it won't die automatically. And then after the Shiva, after we stood up from Shiva, I went to visit good friends of my father's. Many of you are here today, and I will acknowledge that soon. But some are not here. And some, sadly, actually told me, what are you kidding? A newspaper like this, you just give it up. Some were also even kind, and they said for sentimental value, they'll give me a little money for the first year. And they say after the first year, move on. Some voiced cynicism about journalism altogether and its future. They said journalism today is entertainment. It's about making money. It's lost its vision. It's lost its voice. Well, thank God I didn't listen to them. And I listened to the friends that I'll soon acknowledge here. And though there was no sense to it, scratched together a little money just to keep it going. So I think standing 10 years later, it's important to explain why. What was the answer to these detractors? And why are we here today? Time in life you have to ask yourself, why are we doing what we're doing? What is the mission, the vision? And the answer is precisely came to me from those detractors. To demonstrate that journalism and media does not have to be entertainment. And it's not just about the here and now. That you could have journalism with a soul, with a vision, with a courage, with a voice. And that's 10 years ago. We all know what's happened in the last 10 years. The last month, the events in Paris, the tragic events, immediately elicited in my mind maybe the greatest moment in journalism in all of history, Émile Zola, when he came out, accused, where he accused the French government of a conspiracy against Alfred Dreyfus. And he brought down a government simply with that headline. A big empire with all the power they had. That's a classic moment in journalism. And today we have different challenges, but the same voice is needed. Same courage. I remember as a child, I asked my father once, I said, what do you do on a day when there's no news? I was a little kid. So he said to me, he smiled and he said, that'll be the headline. There's no news today. And then he whispered, he says, when you'll get older, you'll understand. So I got older and I understand that the news reflects the human drama, our lives. And what greater honor is it to be able to report on life and get beyond, yes, that jaded and cynical entertaining element and focus on the soul. Israel is a lightning rod. The Jewish people are a lightning rod, not just today, throughout history. They dominate news. And they teach us more about ourselves than almost anything else can teach us. So it's an unbelievable privilege to be able to report on that. Ben Hecht, the journalist, famously said that expecting that journalism tell you the big picture is like expecting to understand what time is like by looking at the seconds that tick away on a clock. Well, I want to add something to that. That's true. But the small picture can be informed by the big picture. And even though, yes, the news covers moment by moment, the day by day, but when you have the bigger vision and you see the panorama of history, and I believe the Algemeiner captures that, Then the seconds make sense. They connect dots that show us a bigger picture. So that's our mission, and that's our vision, and that's why 10 years later I'm proud to stand here and say, just look around the room. People you never expect, because when you have that powerful vision and mission and a non-judgmental voice, at the same time unwavering, that resonates. So instead of just being a journalism and a newspaper that reports on facts, statistics, data, we're talking about reporting on the heart and soul that makes us beat. Try to understand between the lines and understand, yes, that greater picture. So I'd like to acknowledge, number one, the people that 10 years ago stood behind us and said, you forge ahead, we're behind you. I don't know what confidence they had, but I want to acknowledge that many of them are here right now. Too many to mention by name. But as my good friend Julie Berman told me then, he said, we're here for you at the takeoff, not just when you're ready in midair and coming in for the landing. And you cannot imagine how much those words are appreciated, because that's what gives you the confidence to forge ahead. Another key point I want to mention is, and I think this is critical, everyone in the Algemeiner staff, except me, is under 30 years old. 35 maybe. Okay. Why do I mention that? Because to be able to infuse a younger generation with such vision is, I think, truly remarkable. Because it's one thing, people already tempered, mature, gone through life, and led by the young and dynamic leader and director of the Algemeiner, David Efyun, who has been successful in not just attracting and eliciting support for so many of you, but also to get over 800 bloggers who blog on a daily basis. This is dynamic, and when it's infused with that soul vision, you can imagine how much of the world you can change. You know, tonight also happens to be a Jewish holiday. It's the 15th of Shvat. It's called the New Year for the trees. First, I wasn't going to mention it because trees and journalism actually have a very hostile relationship. Because how many newspapers are using the paper made from trees? But as we move into the digital age, we can console the trees that we're going to use less of them. And at the same time, I think tree is also a good metaphor, because a tree is the only thing that grows in two directions: deep roots and beautiful fruits. So as we embrace and take on the future, it's important to acknowledge the roots. I begin with my dear father, late father, who spent those years literally 24/7 living and breathing it. And of course, for many healthy years, my dear mother, who's here with us. Let's acknowledge my mother and my siblings. But because of deep roots, that's where a tree bears great fruits. And that's where everybody else comes in. You're here to not just remember the past, but to embrace a new future. So I want to salute the Honorable Yuli Edelstein, Speaker of the Knesset, for honoring us, Melissa Rivers, honoring her mother, Joan, Donald Trump, and everyone else here who are part of this dynamic enterprise, which I have no doubt will continue to forge ahead, break new ground, and stand up in a way that no other journalism, no other newspaper does. And with that said, I want to say a few words about Joe and Debbie Aronow, our honorees. Yes, please come closer. It was difficult to even convince them to be honorees. Anyone that knows them knows that they're the truly humble people. What I mean by that is not those humble people that run away from honor but look over their shoulders and wait for the honor to run after them. But I will never forget, 10 years ago, literally a few months after my father passed away, Joe came over to me and said, I'd like to help the Algemeiner. He solicited me, actually. How often does that happen? You get the message? So Joe and Debbie, no words can express in times when you're trying to start something that really had no finances, we had no staff, we had only some debts. To be able to begin and plant the seeds and get that type of vote of confidence is impossible to express. So let's suffice it to say that we have here two tzaddikim, two really righteous people, in their own quiet way, have allowed the Algemeiner to be where it is today. Because they were there literally from day one. This does not in any way take away from anyone else. On the contrary, that's what I shared with them. I said, I want to honor you, because I want others to see what you did for us and why we're here today. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Joe and Debbie Aronow and present to them the honoree of this evening, the Algemeiner Second Gala 2015. David, please come up. Go ahead, take this. It's for you. Go ahead, David, come on. So this says, let me read it. You want to read it? Joseph and Deborah Aronow, Algemeiner honorees, second annual gala, presented on February 3rd, 2015, New York City. For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent, and for Jerusalem's sake, I will not be quiet. Isaiah 62:1, the Algemeiner. Thank you so much. Yeah, hold it. And to all of you, my partners, I want to just say thank you, because it's impossible for anything like this to occur without all of us together. Enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.